this couple to lose several sons. And they made a vow that they would dedicate their son to Vishnu. And his youthful days, he was very inclined to Vishnu Bhakti or Krishna Bhakti. And after he did his essential training, as a young Brahmin boy in Sanskrit, his grammar, and then it became time for him to receive his Diksha, Upanayana, as a young age, around 12 years of age. So his parents gave him the privilege, the honor, he could indicate who it was he wished to take Diksha from. So he indicated the name as Hridaya Chaitanya. Hridaya Chaitanya. Hridaya Chaitanya lived some distance from where mother and father lived, but he was a very celebrated person, and I will understand why shortly. So he also wanted to be by the Ganges, where his parents were from. There wasn't the Ganges, and Ganges a good place, so he wanted to be near Ganges. The place where Hridaya Chaitanya was residing is a nice town. It's not a big urban area. It's a quite simple area called Ambika Kalna. So he went there, and when he a little background. The background goes like this. At a certain point in time, Nimai Pandit, who later became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was a young Brahmin scholar. He also taught Sanskrit grammar and he was a very popular teacher, had many students. And in course of time, certain circumstances happened where he decided it was necessary for him to take sannyas. There's details. I'm not going to go into those details. But it was good reason. And, of course, it was a transcendental event as well. So Nimai Pandit, informed his dearmost friend and associate, Lord Nityananda, of his plan. And Lord Nityananda was shocked. And he didn't say no, but everything else but no. He cried, and how can you do this? You have a loving wife, and you have a dear mother, and she loves you very much, and how can you take sannyas? No, he gave his explanation of why. And Mahaprabhu gave answers to each of these concerns. And so there's a very nice drawing. They're clutching each other's shoulders and crying, and finally Nityananda accepted. But I want to go with you. So, informing Nityananda, the biographies state, Nimai Pandit decided he wanted to inform but a handful of his closest associates, and one of those 5 was Gauridas. So it gives you an idea of his importance. He was a little older in age than Nimai, and he was a very assertive type of personality. So Nityananda and Nimai Pandit, they made a pilgrimage to go visit Ambika Kalna, and in course of their exchange, Nimai Pandit informed Gauridas that his plan was to take sannyas, and he wanted his blessings. Because you're my dear friend, I want your blessings. And not only he didn't give his blessings, he became angry. You can't do this. Do you know what this is going to do to everybody? They're completely attached to you. No, I don't give my blessings. He doesn't like. And if you take sannyas, you're going to leave, and I'll not see you again. I couldn't maintain my life. This isn't right. No. Firm. So Nimai, of course, it's a lila. He arranged for these deities that you see, Gaur-Nitai, the first Gaur-Nitai deities that were established during his time, still in their white attire because he was still a grahastha, to satisfy the craving of Gauridas Pandit to have Lord Chaitanya's association. And so the deities were made, he brought them to his home, and he said, you worship these deities, and when you're feeling separation from me, you'll see me in the deity. And what's Gauridas going to say? He got this special gesture from Nimai Pandit. So the two, Nimai and Nityananda, started to leave. I've been to the place, and it's a very traditional type of structure. The walls are like 3 feet thick. They're like 10 feet tall. Very, old kind of construction. And there's one entrance into the property, and there's a gate. So they headed for the gate. And when they got to the gate, Gauridas bellowed, wait, you're saying if I see the deity, I'll see you. Then I say, let you stay, let the deity go. Lord Chaitanya smiled, or Nimai Pandit smiled and said, very well. So they went to the altar, and the deities got off the altar and started heading for the gate. And they stood there with in this same gesture. So Gauridas was bewildered and said, it's okay. They can stay and you can go. And it back and forth several times till he had this realization. It was true. The deity was non-different than Nimai and Nityananda. So with that, the deities were installed, and Gauridas worshipped them as he would have worshipped in the presence of Nityananda and Nimai Pandit. And as you see on the screen, it indicates that Gauridas Pandit had a similar role in Krishna's pastimes. His role in Krishna's pastimes was he was Subal, cowherd boy. We're going to have to do a little traffic control. Mataji, we saved you a seat right up front here. And if you want, you need a chair? You would like a chair? You're okay. You sure? Okay. Okay. In time, Gauridas, through his spiritual influence, he became a guru. And the guru had a disciple who is named Chaitanya Das. Gauridas had a disciple who he named Chaitanya Das. So some time passed. Gauridas was, sometimes was out of town and sometimes was at home. So one of the times that he was out of town, Chaitanya Das got a bright idea. And that is, on the appearance day, Lord Chaitanya's Nimai Pandit's birthday, he wanted to have the Gaur Purnima festival. So he got real excited, and those of you that may one day go to Ambika Kalna, besides this tall wall and there's one gate, if you go out the front gate, make a left-hand turn, go down about a couple hundred meters, you'll see a big public square. So the plan was to have the Gaur Purnima festival in the big public square in honor of the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. And so he made arrangement, Chaitanya Das made arrangements for the cooking and the instruments and musicians and the, everything, invitations. Hundreds and hundreds of people came. Big event. And everything was all arranged. And Gauridas came back to town and heard about the big festival and became upset. How could you make all these arrangements without consulting me? This is not right. This isn't the behavior of a disciple, Chaitanya Das. But it was already underway. And so on the day of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, there was a humongous kirtan in that public square, and the kirtan grew in volume and intensity, so much so that the deities of Gaur Nitai on the altar wanted to be present for the kirtan. So they got off the altar, went out the front gate, made a left-hand turn and headed for the kirtan and the festival site. And Gauridas was upset. He had a certain personality. He picked up a stick. He ordered them, get back on the altar. It's time for your offering. Where are you going? So he, with this waving the stick and shouting, he followed behind them. And when they saw him coming, they looked over their shoulder, and he's coming. They saw Chaitanya Das, and according to this biography, there's a Syamananda Prakash, a book by that name, and this what I'm describing is from that book. The deity entered the heart of Chaitanya Das. They disappeared. They were like, they didn't want to get whacked by Gauridas. So they entered his heart. And from that day, he's no longer Chaitanya Das, he's Hridaya Chaitanya, disciple of Gauridas. Now, in course of time, Hridaya Chaitanya also became matured and very senior and responsible. And he made the acquaintance of, we heard already, of Dukhi. You remember Dukhi, right? Good. So Dukhi wanted, because Hridaya Chaitanya was a well-known, very qualified, gifted, learned sannyasi. He wanted him to become his Diksha Guru. So when he came to, another name for Hridaya Chaitanya's Hridayananda, maybe some of you know, that was a name given by Srila Prabhupada to one of his disciples. So there's the deities on the left. This is a very old, kind of rudimentary painting. You know, that what looks like a flower vase, it meant to be a fire yajna. And then the paraphernalia for a yajna. So he's being given diksha. And Dukhi became Dukhi Krishnadas. And later his name is going to become Syamananda. So Dukhi became Dukhi Krishnadas. And in course of time, because Hridaya Chaitanya understood Jiva Goswami was the most elevated scholarly, Vaishnava amongst all the followers of Lord Chaitanya. So he understood my disciple, Dukhi Krishna Das, is very capable person. I want him to get trained under Jiva Goswami. So the geography Bengal is way on the eastern side of India, and Vrindavan is in north central India. So he made a pilgrimage by foot, Dukhi Krishnadas, to go take shelter of Jiva Goswami. So there's this Bhakti Ratnakar is one of the sources that gives all this history. And first place he went from near Navadvip, he went to Navadvip from Ambika Kalna. And when he went to Navadvip, he went to the house of Jagannath Mishra. Jagannath Mishra was no longer there, but there was a very old personal servant of Sachi Devi still there. And Sachi Devi, Ishan is the name, and Ishan showed great affection, because just like Sachi would have. And so he was very happy to be in Navadvip. And then continuing, we're going in a westerly direction from Navadvip, he went to Gaya. And Gaya is a place, those of you that are knowledgeable of what goes on in India, it's a place where when someone's departed ancestor, it's a place where Chaitanya or Nimai Pandit went to give the Shraddha ceremony for his departed father. He went to Gaya to do the ceremony. And at the top of this hill, there's an impression of Lord Vishnu's feet, because it's a Vaishnava place. And he saw Lord Vishnu's feet. He remembered the Diksha that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received from Ishwara Puri, his mantra Diksha Guru. And, he's getting, pilgrimage has this wonderful effect of spiritualizing one's consciousness. Continuing in a westerly direction, he went to Benares or Kashidam, and there he met the personalities who Lord Chaitanya stayed with and who Sanatana Goswami stayed with, and many other devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He met them personally, got their association, naturally the remembrances of their exchanges with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, etc. And he hasn't yet gotten to Vrindavan, he will. He went, before reaching Vrindavan, he went to Mathura. And this biography describes he took his bath in a place known as Vishram Ghat. Vishram means resting. So it's a ghat, yet by the Jamuna River, where Krishna rested after killing Kamsa. And because of that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he visited Mathura, he went to the same place and took his sacred bath in the river Jamuna at Vishram Ghat. Very nearby is a wonderful, beautiful deity of Adikeshava, and he felt, by this time, he's a spiritually inclined young man, and now he's feeling very much filled with ecstasy. So from there, he went to Vrindavan, from Mathura to Vrindavan. And when he went to Vrindavan, he met Jiva Goswami. And when he met Jiva Goswami, it was like a reunion of persons that have known each other spiritually for many, many, many lifetimes together. So Jiva Goswami received him very nicely. With Dukhi Krishnadas was a letter handwritten by Hriday Chaitanya requesting Jiva to consider Dukhi to be his shishya, someone he would give instruction to, and consider him to be an extension of himself. So, in the course of staying together in Vrindavan, part of this biography says that Jiva gave a title to each of the three personalities. Then for Dukhi Krishna, when he reached Vrindavan, Dukhi Krishna Das particularly liked, you're going to see some photographs of the deity of Syamasundara. And because of his deep love and affinity for Radha Syamasundara, Jiva Goswami gave him you can say a nickname or a title, Syamananda. The Syamananda title stayed with him. So he's gone from Dukhi Krishnadas to Syamananda. So now we're going to call him Syamananda. And the two other associates, they were also students, direct personal students of Jiva. One was Narottam Das Thakur. So the title Thakur was given because he is a person who others hold very deeply in high spiritual respect. Thakur. Deities are sometimes given that title also, but a person when given that title, it's a very respectful title. Highly revered person. Narottam Das Thakur. And the other was Srinivas Acharya. We all know the meaning. Acharya is one who teaches by example. So he has knowledge, and Acharya has knowledge, and he exemplifies. And he shows by proper conduct what those teachings are. So that's a meaning implied by this title that was given. So Syamananda, Thakur, and Acharya, 3 titles by Jiva Goswami. Here is a very same old style. There are the other 2 students sitting there, and there's Syamananda coming to take shelter of Jiva Goswami. And, their little school where Jiva Goswami, at this time, there wasn't a Radha Damodar temple yet. Eventually there became the deities of Radha Damodar and a temple for the deities at this place. But he did his teaching at this place. His teaching was just under a tree. So after taking shelter, there's now 3. You see, one is dressed in saffron. Who reads Hindi? Everyone reads Hindi. What's the name on the far right? What does it say? Huh? I can't hear you. No. And there's 3 students. That's Syamananda. And then in the middle? You got like 5 voices saying the same thing. Say it. Just you. Narottam Das Thakur in the center. And then in the far left? Srinivas Acharya. Okay. I don't read Hindi. But so those are his 3 students. Now this is a very old styled painting, but it meant to give an indication of the sequence of events. So there's several photographs. This is the deity of Syamananda's favorite deity is Shyamasundar. Now we're going to see Radharani, but notice the sandalwood paste decorations on his hands, on his chin, on his cheeks, above his eyes. These are standard markings. In each day, slightly different, but they all look somewhat similar. There's Radha Shyamasundara, and here's on another day, look at his hands and the markings, etc., etc., etc. He's a very tall deity, very powerful deity. Just his darshan is really something. Here's a very close-up of his face. Notice the markings on his hands, etc., etc. There's a certain kind of tilak. We'll hear a little bit about the tilak marking. It's different. The tilak marking is different than on our Radha Krishna deities, different than our tilak that we wear ourselves also. It's a certain style, but it's the vertical tilak, meaning Vaishnava tilak. This is a photograph of the deities on the Holi festival. You all know what Holi is. So they have their syringes, and Krishna has a shield, and of course he's got his flute. And, it's a pastime, an annual pastime, the Holi festival pastime that Krishna would engage in with his associates. So at this stage, there isn't a temple yet, but where eventually it'll become the Radha Damodar temple. And in very personal way, you'll see one of the 3 has a shaved head. The other 2 don't. The one with the shaved head, that's Narottam Das Thakur. and the other two became grahastas. At this stage, they're not yet grahastas, but they became grahastas. So that's how the artist has depicted them. Well, he, along with liking the deity of Shyamasundara, Syamananda very much liked doing service. So he requested Jiva Goswami for some personal service that he could do. So Jiva Goswami was very creative and very devotional. So he recommended, you can go to the place where it is known that Radha Krishna have their Rasa Leela, and the place is called Sevakunj. The photograph is in today's Sevakunj because it once upon a time, this whole area where the Radha Damodar temple was part of the big Sevakunj area, and it was in course of time chopped and buildings were put up and so forth. Now there's still a fenced-in area that is untouched called Sevakunj. You can go in during the day, but they lock the gate at night. You can't go in. And they said that people try to sneak in and hide, they go mad. So he, Syamananda, was given the service of cleaning the area where it was understood in this general areas where Radha and Krishna and the gopis performed the rasa dance. And just make it clean, make it nice for them. So he liked that service. And one fine day, much to his surprise, he found an ankle ornament while he was cleaning. And when he went to pick up the ankle ornament, just by touching the ankle ornament, his whole body became erupted with a transcendental ecstasy. And he was trembling and perspiring and understanding this isn't something ordinary. I want to find out who the owner of this very special ankle ornament is. So some days passed, and there's a nice sequel to the rest of this story. This painting, this is a photograph of an ankle ornament, could be like the ones that he found. And there's the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, because the painting on the upper left, this is Sadhaputta, commissioned an artist to make this painting. He found the ankle ornament. Some days later, a little Brijbasi lady came hobbling up and asked him, have you found an ankle ornament? And Syamananda said, yes, in fact, I have. And who are you? He said, I'm the maidservant of the one who lost that ankle ornament. Could you give it to me? And Dukhi Krishna Das, now Syamananda, said, I'd like to meet this person. Can you introduce me to this person who lost this ankle? He didn't say, it sent me for a spin of a transcendental ecstasy. He just wanted to meet the person. And so that little old Brijbasi lady transformed herself into Lalita, Vishaka. And she introduced herself. My name is Vishaka. I was sent here by Radharani to retrieve her ankle ornament. You want to meet her, right? Yes, I want to meet her. I'd like to personally give her the ankle ornament. And so, the way this narration continues, that's what happened. Syamananda was transformed into a young gopi, a manjari. The biographies detail her name, Kanaka Manjari. Radharani addresses her by that name, and that's Krishna Syamananda in his spiritual form, his Siddha Deha form. So Radharani received Kanaka Manjari. There's the other Ashtasakis. And Radharani was very kind, very merciful. He or she offered the ankle ornament, and then Radharani placed the ankle ornament on her forehead, and made a different tilak marking than what she was accustomed to wearing, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tilak. It's known by the name Nupura tilak. It's that same U-shaped, without the little piece at the end on the bridge of your nose, just that whole one complete tilak marking. Just by touching the mark on Kanakamantri's forehead. So there was this transcendental exchange, and Kanakamantri was then sent back to go to the earthly realm. And when she came back to the earthly realm, again assumed the form of Syamananda. And that was all very transcendentally wonderful, except some people didn't understand what happened, because he or she was told, don't tell anyone. But Syamananda had to tell Jiva Goswami. So he told Jiva Goswami what happened. And in course of time, from Bengal, as Bengalis would sometimes do, they would come to Vrindavan to visit Vrindavan. And when visiting Vrindavan, some of those persons that came were disciples of Hridaya Chaitanya. And when they came to see their godbrother, Syamananda, who is no longer Dukhi Krishna Das, but he's Syamananda. And he has a different tilak. So, you know, they started this false rumor. Jiva Goswami has transgressed Vaishnava etiquette. He was already initiated as Dukhi Krishna Das, and now he has another name, Syamananda, and he has another tilak. They didn't say anything, but when they went back to West Bengal, they told Hridaya Chaitanya what's going on. So Hridaya Chaitanya was very disturbed, naturally. And so he decided, I'll personally go visit Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan and ask him, what is this? Please explain. So that's what happened. The painting, again, this is Sadaputa's commissioned artwork. There's his student in the front, Dukhi Krishna Das, now Syamananda, and several hundred or thousand disciples of Hridaya Chaitanya that came with him. And Hridaya Chaitanya first, not in a confrontational way, but asked Jiva Goswami, what's your explanation? What is this tilak? What is this name? How did this happen? What has happened? And Jiva Goswami said, I don't know, but yet you better ask your disciple. He knows. He was passing the buck, right? Because he was not supposed to tell, so he didn't tell what happened. So, very well. So he had Dukhi Krishna come before him and ask for an explanation. What's this tilak? What's this new name? What's going on? And there he was, stuck, told by Radharani to not disclose what happened. But he's being asked by his Diksha Guru what happened. So he responded by saying, I need to consider very carefully how to give you a proper answer, because you deserve a proper answer. He said, yes. You take as much time as you like, but I want a proper answer. So the painting shows he, Dukhi Krishna Das, now Syamananda, went into a trance of meditation, and in his trance of meditation, he was teleported or transported into his, again, Kanakamanjari form. And there Kanakamanjari was, in the presence of Radharani, crying and crying and crying, and beside himself or herself, what to do, what to say to Hridaya Chaitanya. I don't want to have him think he's been disrespected. But I'm told by Radharani not to disclose. So they brought her before Radharani. Had Radharani, heard the whole story and consoled Kanaka Manjari and said, "Don't worry, everything is going to be all right." Just hearing that from Radharani was like, phew. So when you return, just tell your spiritual master, Hriday Chaitanya, it all happened in a dream. And if he says, "How do I know it just happened in a dream?" you can say, "Try to wash off the tilak." And if the tilak doesn't wash off, it wasn't I put on the new tilak, it's just in a dream. That was Radharani's directive. And in addition, Radharani had Lalita give him or her a deity of Krishna. So now Kanaka Manjari has a deity that she takes with her back to the earthly realm. And that deity is still being worshipped in Vrindavan. And the deity came from Radharani's own hand. So the mercy of Srimati Radharani, if someone can become qualified enough to receive the mercy of Radharani, you're in good shape. So now back in his Syamananda Dukhi Krishna form, he informed his spiritual master exactly what Radharani said to say. His spiritual master agreed, "Yes, I'll try to wash off, or have someone try to wash off the tilak off your forehead," and it didn't come off. So I'll accept. And lived happily ever after. It's a story with a happy ending. There's not always happy endings, it's stories, but there was a happy ending. Here's a photograph of the deities. In local language, Lala means a small boy, Lali means a small girl. So it's the age of Radha Krishna is very young. Here's a close-up of the Krishna deity. Very nice deity, nice form, nice ornaments, nice shringar. And another photograph of the deity. Not as nice as the previous one, but the same deity. So now this is the place where the ankle ornament was found. It didn't look like this way back then. It looked like the other photograph that you saw of Seva Kunj. But, in course of time, they made a special sitting place, a shrine, where the ankle ornament was found. Now the three students are back together as students of Jiva Goswami. And when they were sufficiently trained by Jiva Goswami, something very important happened. The picture starts to change. That is, in Vrindavan, the seat of highest education of Gaudiya Vaishnavism had dwindled significantly in the eastern part of India, particularly Bengal, because people were worshippers of Lord Chaitanya, but they had deviated practices and teachings. And so everything became distorted in that part of the world, or that part of India. And so Janava, as many of you know, Janava was the wife or consort of Nityananda. And when Nityananda departed, then one of the two wives, he had co-wives, and one of them entered into the funeral pyre of Nityananda, and the remaining Janava functioned like a guru for all of that part of India. And so she sent a messenger to Jiva, requesting Jiva to arrange for copies of the original manuscripts of all the Goswamis to be sent to for their use, and to send your three students as teachers to train everybody in these teachings that you've already trained them. Train the eastern part of India, please. Now, it's an important detail. Jiva Goswami was such a personality that the original manuscripts of both Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, as well in turn Raghunath Das Goswami, whatever writings they wrote, the original manuscript, I'll say it twice, the original manuscript was given to Jiva Goswami for preservation. And he was good. He had a place to preserve them. He had a temple. The others didn't have temples. They had trees. And they wrote on leaves. And he had a temple where he could preserve them. And he did. So today, in the past 20, 30 years or something like that, all those original manuscripts were gifted to an entity in Vrindavan called the Jiva Institute, named after Jiva Goswami. And by modern technology, they were able to make exact digital replicas of those original manuscripts. Imagine having the original manuscript of Srimad Bhagavatam, the original manuscript of Mahabharata, the original manuscript of Ramayana. They don't exist. But the writings of the Goswamis exist. The original digital copies of. So one can look. I mean, if you read Sanskrit, you can go to the Jiva Institute and be cross-referenced and make sure that what you're saying is in Rupa Goswami's teachings. There's the manuscript. It's like that's gold, platinum, gold. So Janava requested. Jiva Goswami said yes. Copies were made, loaded up in a bullock cart, headed for the eastern part of India. And then something unfortunate happened. There's always something unfortunate, right? The misfortune was there was a king named Virhambir. And Virhambir had an astrologer in his court. He was a king. And the astrologer said, hey, something most valuable, the most valuable thing in the world, a whole bullock cart load is coming into your kingdom. Do the needful, right, king? So he did. He sent some soldiers in the middle of the night when the three students of Jiva Goswami plus whoever their assistants were asleep. They stole the cart. They brought the cart to the king, and the king was very disappointed. I was expecting gold and rubies and diamonds and books, manuscripts. When the three woke up the next morning and found the cart was gone, it was panic. Fortunately, the originals were where they were, but this mission on behalf of Janava and Jiva was spoiled. So discussion, they decided that Srinivas volunteered, I'll stay behind and I'll find that bullock cart. And the series of events happened. He found out where the bullock cart was. He met with King Virhambir, and by his Jiva Goswami's association, he understood, yes, what your astrologer told you is true. This is the most valuable thing. Transcendental knowledge, the writings of the six Goswamis. And he shared with him some of that knowledge that he had gained from Jiva Goswami, and in due course of time, Virhambir became a Vaishnava, became an initiated disciple of Srinivas Acharya. The three teachers each developed the kirtan style because it was a very important part of preaching in Bengal is kirtan along with teachings. So they did both. And then here's some series of events. Each of them were given different areas to go to. The area where Syamananda went was a place where there was Pathan rulers. And one particular ruler was particularly nasty. He particularly despised kirtan. And so Syamananda decided, let's have kirtan in his town. So they went through the public shopping area and, kirtan, and Sher Khan was irate, and he personally came along with his soldiers and started breaking the drums and musical instruments and making, ordering them to stop. Syamananda happened to be there. And Syamananda, the description, this biography says, he shouted so loudly the holy name that the beard and mustache of these soldiers burst into flames. And the nose started to bleed. And they were terrified. So they ran for their lives and their beards. That night, according to this biography, Sher Khan had a dream. And in that dream appeared a mystical form declaring, I am Allah, I am your Lord and Master, and you have just made a big offense to one of my dear devotees. And then that form that identified himself as Allah transformed into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar, personality of Godhead, and said, you have offended one of my dear devotees. Tomorrow you find him, you fall at his feet, you beg for forgiveness and take shelter from him for initiation. And if you don't, for the rest of your life and for eternity, you'll burn in hell. So that was enough for Sher Khan. Pretty convincing. It was a dream, but a pretty convincing dream. So the next morning, there was Syamananda with his whole kirtan party undisturbed and ready to take on whatever came. And Sher Khan came right up to him, fell at his feet, clasped his feet, begged forgiveness. He said, this was, my intention was to bring harm to you, and I've been ordered for my life to take shelter of you. Please forgive me for my wrongdoing. And, immediately it was forgiveness. And he became a Vaishnava, known as Chaitanya Das. Very much like King Virhambir. Different name, but now the idea is that each of these three personalities were given geographic areas, and in the geographic area that Syamananda was moving in, he met a yogi. The picture depicting the yogi is riding a lion. Some yogis walk. Some yogis ride horses. This yogi rode a lion. And there was a confrontation between Syamananda and the yogi. They had a debate for several days. And at the end of those 3 days, Syamananda flooded him, Yogi Damodar, with bhakti rasa and revealed his spiritual nature. Now it doesn't say any detail of what that consisted of, but he's a very powerful Vaishnava, so he can meet anything. He revealed his spiritual nature. And so on. In the course of his travels, one of the personalities who he made the acquaintance of was the son of a zamindar. Zamindar means landholder. He was under a king, and his duty gifted by the king was you look after a certain tract of land. So this is a painting of Rasika Murari or Rasikananda, and he was the son of a zamindar in this particular village, Rohini village. And in course of time, Rasika Murari, or Rasikananda as he's more commonly known, became his most important disciple. And so together, these two, Syamananda and Rasikananda, they traveled here and there. One of the places they traveled was right in that same village that Rasikananda was from. There's another yogi, he just happened to have the same name, Damodar, And when they were traveling through the city streets, just seeing from a distance, seeing Syamananda, he saw his dazzling effulgence. He fell at his feet. Syamananda appeared, commanded him, chant Gornitai, and he did. And he swooned in an ecstatic trance. So it's a celebrated event in the preaching mission, and one can imagine, and without all the rest of the stories, again and again and again, there are reproductions with different meetings of difficult persons that Syamananda and Rasikananda helped to bring to bhakti. One of them was when I was just before coming here, I was in Portland, and their pujari that did the yagya in Portland is from Orissa. So I asked him, have you ever visited this place, Nrsinghapur? He said, oh, yes. And so if anything I'm narrating you've heard differently, please volunteer. So there was this zamindar in this village or city, the Singapore, and his name was Udana Rai. And he was a merciless fellow. He killed thousands of Vaishnavas, those that happened to have a little mat, straw mat or cloth mat to sit on as they were doing their devotional practices. He kept their asana and took their bodies and threw them in the bottom of a well. Pretty busy well with thousands of Vaishnavas at the bottom of the well. So, visiting this place, Rasikananda and Syamananda thought, hey, if Udan Rai can become converted to become Vaishnav, it'll be glorious. It was like Jaghai Madhai scene. So, Nityananda going after those two. So, they went to his home, Udana Roy's home. And when they went, it was in the twilight, evening hour. He was lying down, not asleep. And when Udana Roy, saw a figure enter into his home, he sat up. And the voice said, I am Allah, your worshipable Master and Lord. There's a wonderful saint who has come to your town, and you should take shelter of him, and very soon he'll come to your home right here. When you see him, take shelter of him and become his initiated disciple. Then Allah disappeared. Shortly thereafter, Rasikananda and Syamananda appeared in his home. And he did exactly what was told by Allah to do. He took shelter of him and became a wonderful Vaishnava in course of time, of course. Many terrible sinful activities, because this is just some killing thousands of Vaishnavas. One can imagine he did other sinful activities. But by taking full shelter of a pure devotee, like Syamananda, then one becomes liberated or freed from those reactions. In the same place, Nrsinghpur, there's a deity of Syamananda Pandit. And well known, maybe you don't know, but in Ramuna, where Shirakura Gopinath stay, Rasikananda also spent some time. Notice his tilak is a little different than our Gaudiya Vaishnav tilak, but it's that same standard. And he left his body before the deity of Shirakura Gopinath, and his samadhi is there, and this is this murti is from that place in Ramuna. So sometime when you visit holy places, Ramuna is a very nice place to visit. It's a little out of the way, but it's spiritually very significant. Shirakura Gopinath, and the blessing with Madhavendra Puri, etc., etc., etc. Understanding the power and the merciful nature of the deity Rasikananda, made that his residence for quite some time. And therefore, this Murti. This is a deity that Rasikananda worshipped, Radha Krishna deity, of course a little Jagannath in the front. And that's our presentation on the life of Syamananda, or Kanaka Manjari. Now, how does one become eligible to have one's spiritual form revealed? We all have a spiritual form, and the spiritual form isn't the covering that we now have. The covering that we now have goes through its 6 changes, and then it's gone, and then the soul moves on. But that soul has an original spiritual identity. Somehow or another, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani, that spiritual form was revealed to Dukhi Krishnadas or Syamananda. Now, interesting, Radharani gave the same name. When she gave this tilak marking, she gave the same name that Jiva Goswami had given, which was Syamananda. Double. Coincidentally, the same name. And therefore, those who are followers in the line of Syamananda have that same tilak that was given to him by Srimati Radharani. Little different than the Gaudiya tilak, but that's fine. The vertical tilak is the main important feature. I'm looking around to see how many people are assembled out there in the peanut gallery. Could you see everything from back there? Yeah? Okay. Any comments or questions? You have something. These devotees are recording this class, so they probably want you to speak into the microphone. We can hear you, but the people that are elsewhere can't.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just quick question. I know both king, they did like sin, but how they ended up having God in their dreams, even though after doing all those kind of sin and then harming the Vaishnava people.
How did they end up having material bodies?
No. How did they ended up having Lord in their dream to Allah?
Huh? How did they end up having God in their dreams? Oh, why not? He can appear however he wants. He doesn't need somebody's permission or a special qualification. He's the Lord of everyone, so he can go where he wants. He can go into prison, and he's not a prisoner. He can go anywhere he wants, and he likes specifically giving protection and shelter to his devotee. So this particular, Zamindar was wicked and cruel, and he wanted him to not do the same. Take shelter of him, take initiation from him. So, for protection. Pritranaya sadhanam vinashaya shaduskritam. So he can appear however he wants. And it's not multiple lords, it's one Lord. Different traditions, but one Lord. No problem. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. In one slide, the 3 disciples of Jiva Goswami were shown, in which Syamananda Prabhu was in saffron, and
Syamananda became a grahastha.
later he became.
Yes, that artist got a little mixed up.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Guru Maharaj, for coming straight from the airport from the West Coast with such a
No
significant time difference. I would be inclined to take rest after a flight like that. Just thank you for this opportunity to hear from you.
It was nice having lunch in the airplane too. Snack. I had a little snack when I got here too.
Guru Maharaj, a comment. So when Jiva Goswami's integrity was being questioned, he did not collapse into defending himself.
No. Could you adjust the volume or the direction or something? Thank you. Go ahead.
Even though he didn't know whether or how he would be exonerated.
Yeah.
And
Krishna is his protector.
yes. And in the other situation in Vrindavan, where Rupa Goswami's honor is at stake because the Pandit is passing through and he asks to debate, and Rupa Goswami just signs and says,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
you are the superior scholar. In that situation, Jiva Goswami stood up and defended
Yeah.
his guru's honor.
Yeah.
Not for himself, but defending the honor of
Yeah.
his guru.
It's culture.
Yes, so it's just so very instructive to notice these subtle, fine discrimination that our acharyas exhibit.
If your lights are on, you'll see these. And if you don't, it's a nice story. More?
And on another thread, Guru Maharaj, you mentioned that one of Lord Nityananda's wives
Yes.
entered his funeral pyre.
Vasudha. Now, exactly what happened, my understanding is not a funeral pyre, but the two wives, Vasudha and Janava, they were feeling great separation. So I did say funeral pyre, and I was thinking, what am I saying? My understanding is he entered into the body of a deity. Now I can't remember which deity. But what Vasudha was, huh?
Tota Gopinath. Isn't it Tota Gopinath?
No, that's Lord Chaitanya. Tota Gopinath. Lord Chaitanya. I can't remember Nityananda. I can't remember. So, yes, nice catch. I said funeral pyre. There's no body to burn. I'll be more careful. Yes.
Bankim Roy.
What?
Bankim Roy. Yeah.
Ah.
I'll check again. But
Please. And then, it's probably a good idea, Shatrupa, since you're checking, in what was the way in which Vasudha left this world? Because it wasn't entered into the funeral pyre. The history is there somewhere. Something further? Okay. Others? You've always got something. Here comes the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I actually had a question from a class from your previous visit.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
So, you were discussing like the different stages of bhakti. Bhakti Devi bestows bhakti in.
We're going to continue with that discussion.
And so the highest stage of her mercy, I think, is prema, right? And different devotees also have different rasas. So I was wondering if a devotee can have certain control over like the kind of rasa they have with Krishna, or the rasa that you have with Krishna is also determined.
Preassigned. Which way do you want it? You want to pick and choose, or you want what Krishna wants?
What Krishna
Oh, okay. That's how it works. Now, Tamal Krishna Maharaj once asked a question. Is it possible, the answer to this question is yes, is it possible that one may have an affinity in a particular rasa towards Krishna, and then at some later point in time, another complementary but not the same rasa towards Krishna, in intimate exchange of love with Krishna? And Prabhupada's answer, very succinct kind of an answer, bhakti is not static, it's dynamic. It was a yes answer. He didn't detail how is a transition from this to that take place. There's a description in Rupa Goswami's teachings about mixtures of rasa. And as long as there are not incompatible rasa, then there can be a mixture, and more sometimes another, but a mixture to some degree. So Krishna has he's all capable, but there's not, for the benefit of the living entity, it's not incompatible mixing of rasas. There's compatible mixing of rasas. And so that says sometimes this is more prominent and sometimes that is more prominent. And then back again, and then back again. Because so my understanding is it's a constitutional dynamic, and Krishna can move the dial this way, that way, for his satisfaction and for the satisfaction of the living entity, because within Krishna is everything, and the living entities are satisfying Krishna. That's their happiness, is Krishna's happiness. So it's according to Krishna's happiness. And so back to your question, is it pre-assigned? And then the answer is it's not static, it's dynamic. So is there a limit to that which is dynamic? There's no limit. There may be that which is of a certain nature, and that certain nature can transcendently shift according to the happiness of Krishna and his loving exchange with his devotees, or a devotee. There's more to say, but that's good enough. Anyone else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.